Very good. Okay, then it is 14:01, 2 p.m., and we will start our Renew session, the format of VPI and UIP, to inform you about the latest developments on the digitalization of rail freight. I have here with me, to my left-hand side, Jill Peterhans, who will run today the show because the most of the issues are European, are international issues. Therefore, Jill was so kind to come to join us here in Hamburg and to give you a very comprehensive and very condensed information about things what are happening in Europe on the digitalization, and especially with focus on the DAC, on the digital automatic coupler. From my side, my name is Malte Lavrenz, as you can see, and I'm the chairman of the German VPI. We work very closely together with our friends on UIP, and we provide the framework, and today it's up to Jill to provide us with the content. Jill, thanks for being here with me, because I couldn't do this, what you are doing today. From my side, I will take care a little bit of the time. I will take care of the chat in order you would like to raise questions. I will follow up very closely on the chat function in Teams. And for your information, the session will be recorded and can later be watched on our YouTube channel. Therefore, if your time is limited, we will record this whole session and make it available to you on our YouTube channel. You can view all this on the home pages of VPI and UIP. Another hint from my side, the best view on the presentations and on the speakers is when you put your Teams modus view on the speaker modus, then the whole presentation and the sign, the screen of a speaker is in the best resolution for your screen. Yeah, this is for my side. Jill, thanks for being with us and giving a comprehensive information about that. I will follow up on the chat and hope that we have a little interactive session here, and not, Jill, that you are consequently speaking for 2 hours. So good start for you, and I will closely monitor what's going on. Jill.
Thank you, Malte, and good afternoon also from UIP side for the second Renew webinar. Happy to be your guide or run the show, as Malte said this afternoon. Important, we need sparring partners, so if there are questions, there are no dumb questions, there are only dumb answers which I can provide. So if you have points you want to raise, don't hesitate. Malte will then hand over to me, and then we will hopefully find the answer to your question. Can you, in the regie, put the presentation on? I'd like to start right away, just by reminding you as well why we do this Renew webinar. We thought about different means of communication when it comes to digitalization, and we thought that as a new mean of communication, rather than writing newsletter, we would use this kind of webinar, as it's used also, by the way, by the European Railway Agency, to provide an update on the things which are happening around the industry, around digitalization, around what we call full digital freight train operations. To be frankly speaking, these slides didn't change since 2018, and the first time we presented it in Vienna. We still think that all the nice word which we have for rail freight about increasing attractiveness, about more efficiency, about responding to the customer needs, about addressing the concern of the people and the staff, is represented here. We have, of course, as a center, our connection to the ports at the gateway to the world. We have the digitalization and the digital platform topic, infrastructure, capacity, intelligence on the infrastructure, efficiency in land use. All those topics are part of what we see as a vision for 30% modal share. what underpins this topic, and that's the upper part of the image you have in front of you, of the slide you have in front of you, is this full digital freight train. And when we look into this full digital freight train, we have a lot of works which are happening, as Malte mentioned, at the European level. And the objective today is, again, in 2 different sessions, to report about the main topic which we are discussing. The good news as well, we had, perhaps some of you followed that last week, we had the Connecting Europe Days in Brussels, which is an event organized by the Commission from DG Move side. So it's 3-4 days activities around all different topics in transport, with one special session focusing on the digital automatic coupler together with, under the Belgian presidency. You see on the picture Georges Quinet, Mrs. Nikuta, Christian Schmidt, and other, and Mr. Wissing, for example, from Germany was there as well. And it's good news because, in fact, at this event, the political support was reiterated. The future of rail freight, putting rail freight in the 21st century, for different reasons. All have highlighted, for example, the need to have a strong rail freight for the economy. For Peter Flüglistaller, who is the CEO of the Federal Office of Transport in Switzerland, he said that part of the full digitalization of freight train is important in order to move from subsidies into investments, stop subsidizing SBB and getting into real profitable industry who is capable of running the train with profit. We had also, for example, Germany, a topic which you know very well, Malte, which is the growth in transports, which need also a strong rail freight. For Georges Quinet, who is a green politician, it was, of course, the modal shift who was relevant. So it was a good event. It was a positive atmosphere, and I think that confirms what we see as important if we look into the future, which is together to define the transformation of our sector. Why we do that? The next slide. Why we do that? Why we want to have a digital, automated, and connected rail freight, both for the system and society. Here in this slide, we have tried to put together the advantages of having full digital freight train operation. It's not only about the DAC, to be very honest, it's also about ETCS level 4, it's about FRMCS, so moving from 2G to 5G. And of course, we are not neglecting the capacity issue on the infrastructure, which is so prominent in Germany. But of course, if we change a little bit the way we work, we could also create capacity. How much is a big question. Let it be in the room. But the idea is for operation, for infrastructure, for the asset, and especially the one we often forget, for the customers, we need to digitalize and automate rail freight operation. So basically, as an introduction from UIP side, that's still what we believe is at the center of our work when we speak about innovation. There are other topics on the regulatory framework which are not for today's webinar, but this is still our vision and our wishes for the future. In the last webinar, I ended my presentation and our presentation, UIP VPI, with this saying, this quote from Socrates, saying that the secret to change is to focus an energy on building the new. And today's idea is really to present to you and to discuss with you, where are we then in building the new? What have we achieved? Where are we working on? And what can you expect in the coming months and even coming years. So the program here you see it's still the same. I always differentiate in this slide between the upper part, developing a technology, developing one European system and testing it, and testing also the operational part of innovation, or let's say of the digital automatic couplers, which is done under the umbrella of the Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, one in a flagship project, innovation project, on the other side in the system pillar when it comes to driving the standardization works and also the interface with the TSI and the regulatory framework. That's the upper part. The other part is looking backwards, I would say. It's looking at the existing system which we have in rail freight and asking ourselves how could we possibly upgrade the existing fleet, upgrade the existing operation with the adequate funding, with a manageable authorization process and a viable migration roadmap. So really, we should never forget and never mix up the two aspects, the one which is developing innovation and putting innovation into reality, upper part, and the other one which is, okay, I have an existing system, I have existing assets, what should I do with it in order to cope with the new world? Just a reminder before we speak about this FP5 Transform project under Europe's Rails Innovation Pillar. What we present today is the view of UIP, respectively my views from the insight of the project, and it's not the view of Europe's Rail or of any of the partner which are part of this project. We have had this slide for a couple of times. I think many of you have seen it. And in order to introduce the Transform project, I thought it would be perhaps good to have a video. I don't know if we can have the video. And if we have the video, I hope it will work also for you with sound. Otherwise, just write it in the chat and we can try to fix it. Are you ready, Heiko?
Europe's Rail Flagship Project 5 Transformer is an ambitious initiative funded by the European Union to transform rail freight. FP5 Transformer brings together 75 partners covering the entire rail freight value chain. Our joint development of an interoperable digital automatic coupler and DAC-enabled software functions is the basis for this transformation. Our goal is to establish rail freight as the backbone of Europe's logistic chains, thereby achieving the European Commission's goals and visions of the European Green Deal. We will achieve this by increasing productivity, improving quality, mitigating demographic change, and raising awareness of transformation. The project is divided into the clusters: full digital freight train operations and seamless freight. FDFTO focuses on technological innovations for trains, such as the DAC mentioned earlier. With its harmonized interfaces, a data and electrical energy connection is established, enabling intelligent freight train applications. Today's manual processes before train departure, such as train composition detection and automated brake tests, will be automated by FDFTO train functions. The train run is improved through train integrity monitoring and distributed power systems. Yard automation is another key to a competitive rail. Railway checkpoints with cameras check all wagons at the entrance. The DAC allows automatic uncoupling and coupling, and together with the train functions, trains can be dispatched faster. Seamless freight is about improving the integration of rail services into multimodal transport chains. This affects both the planning and the operation of rail services. End-to-end planning is improved through new functions such as intermodal routing and dynamic information systems for capacity and demand management. Operations benefit from standardized real-time data exchange and AI-based prediction algorithms. This enables direct interaction with new traffic management systems and dynamic dispatching in yards and terminals. Combined with FDFTO technologies and multi-country licensed loco drivers, we reduce transport times, improve reliability, and ensure safety. Seamless thinking and action across processes, borders, and actors is the future of rail freight systems. To successfully develop FDFTO and seamless technology, the close collaboration of key stakeholders is crucial. Visit our website to learn more, follow our hashtags, and become part of Europe's rail flagship Project 5 Transformer. Europe.
So, I hope you can still hear me or hear me back now with the presentation. You have the link out also to the website if you want to know more. I think you have seen the scope of this Transform project with almost 95 million euro funding in total is quite huge, and it's not always easy to work with more than 400 experts involved. About the partner, perhaps just which are involved, it's more than 71 partners. It's a closed shop, of course. We are, for the wagon keeper, let's say, representing the interests of the wagon keeper as UIP and working on the different part of the Transform project. Here again, that we understand that in the Transform project, we have, of course, two different topics which are interconnected or which are linked together. The one is the FDFTO part with the automatic coupler as a component, including, of course, the energy and communication part. Then also the train function and automated yard operations. Today I will focus my attention on the point 1, 2, and 3 of this full digital freight train operation. Perhaps we can organize, Malte, another webinar or a separate session on the automated yard operation and all the seamless rail freight to make it easy to understand. It's more about data exchange, but also shunting, automated shunting operations, and so on. Important to understand is what we are trying to develop in these 16 technical enablers is first one European system, because we have had always discussion on having different components from different manufacturers. No, it's one European system. Secondly, it's a mature technology. We don't want to have only something which looks good but doesn't work. And thirdly, which is tested in operation. And that's why I think this slide really provide a good view about not the scope in large, but the depths of the work, going into technical readiness level according to ISO 16290 level 8, which is we want to develop a system which is certified, authorized, and which works. Part of this I have seen in the social media and in different places, many comments on, yes, we need to test, of course. And that's one of the biggest part of the discussion as well into this Transform project to ensure maturity is how to define the test. What do we test? Not only on paper, but also in the lab and also with different working packages, different pre-deployment trains, demo trains, I would say even in the Transform project, we are on the demo trains, while when we go into, let's say, the work which I've shown under in the first slide on what do we do with the existing fleet, there we speak about pre-deployment. So in Transform, demo trains, I would say, and the pre-deployment is for the second part of our Renew webinar after the break this afternoon. So here, important to understand, testing is at the center of our work in this Transform project. On the structure, compared to what I shown last time on this Transform project, we have a little bit moving target from the working package 2, 3, 4, and 5, which was under FDFTO management and which is now under the so-called system experts. Why? Because those working packages, as I will show you afterwards, are really on the system. It's really about system architecture, digital architecture, data architecture, and so on. It's very conceptual, and that's why it was placed at the center, at the heart of all the discussion. Of course, before you develop products, you need also to have an idea how this should interface with their environment, the environment being a wagon, a train, or the infrastructure, or even automated shunting operation. So today, for our, let's say, more or less 45 minutes, which we have now on transforming and the Transform project, I will try to concentrate on the different underparts of this slide. As we last time in the first webinar, we were really in the structure. Now I really want to deep dive, not too much, not in the technical details, but really in where are we in defining this transformation. Perhaps a remark from the beginning. You see on the top of this slide the sounding boards with EDDP in brackets. EDDP is still the European DAC deployment program, which is also hosted under Europe's Rail undertaking, but which is part of the discussion on the what do we do with the existing system and the existing fleet. The sounding board are used to have also an exchange with the sector, so outside of the 71 partners which are included, on the deliverables of the project. There are two sounding boards. One is technical, so it's more about the hardware, I would say, and the other one is more operational. It's more about the operational procedures and the system architecture which we have in this Transform project. So when we go into the detail of the left part, and d'accord, that has been a question from you, Malte. There are two DAC core. There is the core of the DAC with the manufacturers, and there is a project called D'accord, which I will speak also about after the break. So don't mix up the two concepts here. When we say DAC core, working groups or working party, we are speaking about the component, the core component of the full digital freight train operation.
It's not always so easy, and it's good to explain. And I would like to encourage, because sometimes even I don't understand certain things, I would encourage you to raise questions in the chat line to make it more interactive. And that was a question which was raised beforehand. Thanks for explaining that.
Okay, if there are no question, it's either...
I monitor that very
okay,
closely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. So we have here, we are still in D'accord. We are at the, I would say, that's where the manufacturers are grouped. That's where the manufacturer are making the music, as we say, and that's where they are the guides, or they run the show, as you say before, Malte. Who in person, it's not only components, but there are real person behind, which are the speakers for the different manufacturers. Let's say when we speak about the component, when we speak about the digital automatic coupler, from Dellner is Johan, then we have from Knorr Michael Gutmann, Christian Radewagen, which many of you know, and David Raoult from for Waptec. Perhaps some are even with us today. What did they achieve in, let's say, the discussion? It's not at the core. It's in fact a deliverable from working package 5, so it's still the system, but it was managed by the manufacturer themselves. We have now the technical specification of the coupler, the interface with the wagon, and the loco hybrid coupler, which means it's a single specification valid for all the 4 manufacturers, and discussion. I think even today, the working group 33 from CENTC 256 is sitting together and working on this nice NVIP, which you see on the top of the slide, in order to transfer also part of the technical specification into the norm. So we have the interface between, let's say, the wagon and the coupler, the interface also with the pneumatic system. We have even, and you see the number 5 on your screen, the electric couplers. We made a decision in the steering committee, I think in February or March, don't remember now, but in the last weeks, we decided on the e-coupler design. Again, the e-coupler design meaning the physical box, not the pin and the connection and everything, but the physical box and how this should work to open and close the, let's say, e-coupler in order also to protect stuff. So here, I would say, big achievement. We have them now, the specification. Are they final for the next 100 years? No, clearly no. As I said before, we want to test it. We will learn. We will have also discussion on maintenance requirements, and for sure, this will evolve in the coming 1 or 2 years until they are really final in the norms, in the TSI, and agreed from a testing point of view that what we have decided on paper works in praxis. So if we look into what can we expect, yes, we have this deliverable 5.2, the technical specification. Yes, we have also the test procedures which have been defined. And now the first functional test reports are coming, which is deliverable 6.1, 1 per manufacturer. Then until June this year, we will get also interoperability reports, coupler for testing on the train lab report, and then also until the end of the year, the DAC level 4 for large-scale demonstrator, which are needed then in other working package if we want to have what I called before the demo trains. Again, for Transform project, we should speak about demo trains, and when we speak about pre-deployment trains, that would be a little bit outside of the Transform project. Yes, Malte?
I don't know whether that fits now into the discussion, but we had this earlier on. You were informing us about the technical developments, about the readiness. You would like to comment a little bit on the ATEX story when we go into hazardous cargo issues. Maybe some words to that, because I can imagine that this is from interest from the guys who are listening.
We need then to go into the next slide if we want to speak about ATEX, or to come back into the slides, because in fact when we speak about ATEX are requirements. ATEX is really something which you have to fulfill. How you implement then into the DAC or the different components of the DAC is another topic. But this requirement, that would be in the green rectangle which you see, which is the system experts, the one who are defining user system requirements and so on, which have to take them on board for the manufacturer then to develop products which correspond to the ATEX requirements, so the protection against explosion, which is ATEX, which is especially relevant for the non-specialist under us, especially relevant when we have tank wagons entering into chemicals, mineral oil, or any other plants, to avoid that you have an explosion with all the different parts on the, let's say, the more electrical part. So it's about power and data systems. So you have, to make it even more complicated, you have the requirements in the system definition, so in the working package 2 or 3, and then underneath you have, for example, the working package 9 on DAC power and data, which are the electricians, if you want. On the top you have the plan for your electricity, then BP9, working package 9, is defining or doing, let's say, the definition of what should be where, and then the manufacturer can develop the electrical components. So we are not there in the specification. I don't remember. I would have to look at it, how far we are in the deliverable. So if I come back now to the other part, or back to the other slide, in deliverable 5.2, how far we are in the development of the technical specification, if we already have something on the electrical components, but I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, and this suits into the technical issues as well, because one first question popped up here, Jill, and it's from Marco Raimondi. He would like to elaborate and would ask if you could please elaborate on the concept of a hybrid coupler. Is that in your scope of information today, or?
I would love to, but from the back end, I have to say I can absolutely not elaborate on the hybrid coupler, which has been defined from for the locomotives, because it's a topic which is completely outside of the scope of the work which we follow. So I know in the technical specification something has been defined, but I imagine Marco would like to know how this hybrid coupler has been defined from a technical point of view. Here I would have to look into the technical specification, but for sure I take it on board, and then perhaps if we have his email, then perhaps bilaterally I can exchange with him on the specification, knowing I never know from the Transform project which kind of documents we are allowed to share. You know, Transform is a EU-funded project, so it's confidentiality and so on. So I need first to check what can be ended out of the Transform project on this. Otherwise, technical board, I can tell you, Marco, the next sounding board technical is on the 6th of May. So here you can ask the question. You would have the specialist from the different manufacturer, but that I cannot, unfortunately, respond to.
Then you can go back to the slides.
So now looking at what the working packages 6, 7, and 8 are about, really this component, the DAC component, the DAC core. Again, we have another working package, which is the DAC train function. Here I have to say we had two working packages, the 10 and the 11, with the idea that we test a couple of train function in a working package 10 with the first demo trains, and then that we do a second set of train functions, and that we do the demo trains 2 for testing even more of the train function. Perhaps you remember there have been a lot of discussion on the train function. The train function are in fact a little bit also the use cases which we have been discussing for, let's say, 2 or 3 years at least, and they can be grouped as generating added value to different users. So we have the train control functions, we have the train user function, and train monitoring function. So in the framework of the discussion within the sector, again, from which point of view? From a point of view of what can we achieve in the time frame which we have, in terms of maturity and of testing. Not that we can say, okay, we take all the train function on board, and at the end, no one has been tested or developed until technical readiness level 8. So we had to reduce the package, and we have reduced the package to what has been defined in the EDDP program board as the DAC basic packaging. So in fact, if I look at the DAC train function within Transform project, we had working package 10, working package 11. Working package 11 doesn't exist anymore. We have a working package 10 who will work on this train function, which are in red on the screen. The other topics will not be part of the Transform project. So perhaps we will have another project which will start afterwards, but the Transform project will work on these train functions and will only develop those train functions for the demo train. So on the demo trains, we will have those functions in red, not the other one. I think that's important also to understand, not that someone has an expectation, I was expecting that we would have an automated parking brake. No, not from the Transform project as it is today. No question on this?
Apparently not.
Okay, perfect. In terms of let's say defining these train functions, perhaps someone has nobody remarked at it. I will go back to this slide. It's the slide number 15, Heiko, because I was expecting a question. Huh?
Klick mal weiter zurück. Go back.
This one.
No, the other one. Yeah.
This one. Right. This one exactly. I was expecting a question here. What happened to deliverable 5.1? We start with 5.2. So I would have expected someone to raise the hand and say, Gilles, you forget something on this slide, 5.1. No, 5.1 is the technical specification of the train function. Right? So we had first to agree on which train function are we able to develop until TRL 8 in the scope of the project before being able to define the technical specification for it. And now I go back to slide 18 again. No, one more. Exactly. And that's at the moment what working package 10 is waiting for is the deliverables out of working package 5, but also working package 3, which is on this side working on the system architecture. So you see, in this project, as soon as you have, let's say, a backlog or you have a decision to be taken and you cannot agree on a very fast track about what we want to achieve all together between the operators, the manufacturers, the wagon keepers, and so on and so forth, then you create perhaps a little bit of delay. But we are still confident that for the demo trains, which are working package 15 to 18, I think, we will have those train function available with, let's say, the digital system architecture, which has been defined now. Of course, if I take the SBB Cargo with this demo train in Switzerland, they have already experience in the automatic brake test with the PGM wagon tracker, I think it's called, not wagon tracker, but the PGM, let's say, technical solution to allow for automatic brake test. So here we are learning as well from projects or demo trains which are already running to develop then the train function. I think at the moment the SBB train is really useful to test the e-couplers, the version of Voigt which has been decided as the design we want to use. No question, Malte?
No questions.
No question from your side? So you are ready for the quiz at the end?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. So, working package 5 defines technical specification. 6, 7, 8, that's the manufacturer. They are testing and reporting. 10, we will look at the DAC train function to prepare it to incorporate them into the demo train. And now I come back to the system. Because all this is nice. I have train function, I have a mechanical, pneumatical, and if I take working package 9, even data and power on the train. And I have also automated shunting operation, different aspects of the freight system, which I need somewhere to make sure they fit together. We have a very fragmented industry that we know, and we cannot develop things without having a concept how they should work together. And that's the system experts. That's really about brain. That's really about when I show the slides, most of the time people tell me like it's too complicated, I don't understand it. It's with acronyms, it's with this goes here and this goes there, and it's really about a system architecture. And at least from the wagon keeper side, we don't have so much system experts. We have technical experts for different part of the wagon or for the authorization, but system experts, the system engineers, that's something which we are still missing. That's why here in the system definition, that's where also we have the biggest challenges. For example, working package 4 is on authorization. And we are now in a phase where we need to look for a safety manager, someone who is, let's say, outside of the project, but who is coaching us in terms of safety. We need also people to work on RAMS requirements and so on and so forth. So here, Malte, if you have at the VPI or from your members, system experts, happy to take them on board. What are they doing? This is a slide which has been presented as well in the last technical and operational boards on the, let me see, what did I write, on the 5th of February 2024, to understand a little bit how this works. So I've presented the working package 5, where we have technical specification at component level or at train function level. Then we have the working package 3, which is also working, let's say, on the system architecture or system requirement. I would say more or less it's not totally correct, but at the train level. And then working package 2, who is working at the whole environment, the whole functional freight system architecture. How does a train communicate with the infrastructure? How does a train communicate with the shunting operation? How does a train communicate with the internet? And so on and so forth. So we really have this. We start with the technical specification component. We have then the train level, and we have then the system level. I think that's the easiest way to understand really the different working package and the way the work is organized within this Transform project at European level. Still no question?
Still no questions.
Okay.
It seems as you can make yourself understandable.
It seems so. We will see with the quiz at the end. No quiz, but here
the big prizes.
Yes, exactly. No, the next big deliverables, which is coming, I think, not in the so far future. If I look at my slide, it's the point 3, which is already there, in fact, which is submitted in February. This deliverable 2.3, the reference freight system architecture. We decided not to put the slide with the different arrow and the different things, because we would lose too many time to explain it. But just to explain a little bit how it works, that's the reference freight system architecture is at the heart of I take inputs from all the different working packages, and I explain how this should work in terms of function of the rail freight system, in terms of the function of all the technical enablers. So we have the subsystem VP5 technical specification of coupler, hybrid couplers, and so on and so forth, which are in the train architecture, working package 3, and that is, let's say, the train is going into the reference freight system architecture. Then we have from working package 4 all the requirements for safe integration, RAMs, and so on. And we have the seamless, that's the, as I said, more data exchange, high-level data exchange, estimated time of arrival, and so on, which also have to fit into a reference system. Innovative freight assets, self-propelled wagons is a topic under working package 22, and the yard automation, so the automated shunting operation also there. Depending on what you do for this, you have to make sure this is compliant or coherent, not compliant, but coherent with all the other parts. So we will have then a reference freight system architecture, which should be, in fact, the new way of defining how we do rail freight in future. Not applying to the existing system, but to new system. How do we work in this whole development of the requirement, the validation, the test, and so on? It was decided to follow not the top-down or a waterfall approach, but to have really the V-cycle approach, which is embedded in the EN 5126, which many of you might know from the safety aspects, which says there is an iterative process. So that's why the documents, the deliverables which we have now, in fact, will evolve over time, and that's why also we think that it will be important for the future to update you from time to time on the status of the work, but also for you to participate to these sounding boards, technical and operational, to follow a little bit the evolution of these documents and let's say of the products over time. Perhaps even before the demo trains start somewhere end of 2024 or mid of 2025, which is more realistic. So that's the approach. It's an approach which allows then also to have really the necessary testing. I can tell you, for example, that from the working package 4, we realized that in the Transform project, the part was missing. The part which was missing was derailment tests, for example, and other tests which needs to be done in order to have a clear view on the requirements for the authorization, to make sure that what we are saying on paper works also in reality. So to be able to authorize new freight wagons with the digital automatic couplers. So this is something which was missing. And we have defined, let's say, we are defining more or less, we are discussing modularity, interoperability, and upgradability, which is the question on which part from the technical specification, which part of a coupler, including the e-coupler, including data and power, should be exchangeable, to make it a little bit easier, between the different suppliers. So you can imagine here we have a lot of discussion with the supplier on you need to have a standard solution for some small parts, and we're not talking about the interface A and so on, that's decided, but the upgradability and exchangeability, I would say, on the component is a topic which is relevant. And when we are there, when we have decided on what should be, then we need to do the mix and match test, which is we need to test also before we go into operation if we can really exchange a different part between the manufacturers, and not to learn only in operation in 5-6 years when we have the first maintenance issue. So we want also to have that into the Transform project, or into, let's say, the innovation pillar, better said. And that's why there has been, perhaps you have seen that there has been a call, I think end of last year, if I'm not mistaken, a call on derailment test, mix and match, where we will participate as well as UIP, I hope, together with some of the biggest wagon keeper, in order to cover aspects on working package 4 authorization which are not yet in the scope of this project. That's why we have also, you will see from time to time, you might wonder why Europe's Rail is doing calls on the digital automatic couplers or digital automatic couplers related topics. It's because some of the aspects cannot be covered into the Transform project, respectively, were not part of the proposal submitted to Europe's Rail last year. Okay? No question.
Still no questions.
It's incredible, but it's good. Then next is a little bit of let's say I've not included the slide because that would be a little bit overwhelming, but I wanted also to speak not only about the DAC core, the DAC train function, the system experts, so working package 2, 3, 4, 5, but also about working package 9, 13 to 18 as well. So on the working package 9, I think what we have to understand there is that the idea is to define let's say how the power and data should work. let's say, the system, the digital or data power supply, and so on. The typical question which they are looking at right now is how to do power management. Imagine you have battery on different wagons. You have the locomotive, it's the one providing the power, and you need a system to say, hey, my battery needs to be charged, my doesn't need, so you need a power management to say, this one needs power, this doesn't need, and so on and so forth. So banal, really simple question which comes to your mind only when you have in fact really worked into the project, and when you begin to see the different components, you see also all the process management which you need related to that. So here DAC power and data, that's really for let's say the I say the electricians, it's not correct, but the mechatronicians, let's say, of our world, and there are not so many. In the DAC testing and demo, we have done the DAC working package 13, defining the tests which needs to be done. Working package 14, the Train Test Lab, I think it's in Görlitz, if I'm not mistaken. And then the working package 15, 16, 17, 18, it's the demo trains. Demo trains from ÖBB, demo trains I called in the Scandinavian, demo trains from FS or Merci Italia, and the demo trains from SBB, which is work package 18. Okay, so the idea with this is really that you understand the different activities and the status of the work in those different SPs, sub-project, just to make it clear, in the different sub-projects which are embedded in this full digital freight train operation management. Question, Malte? No questions. Perfect. So, but when we say, and I'm coming back here into the discussion which we have had in the past in let's say how we get sure that what we do in innovation is applied in reality, because that has been one of the problems. It was discussed again at the informal meeting of the transport minister, respectively the day before at our event, which was presented on the 2nd of April, which was presented just before. It's the fact that in rail in general, rail freight not particular, but in rail in general, we have done innovation, but we have always had the problem how to put innovation into reality. And the reason why, it's because we have a very strong regulatory framework. And that's why in today's that's why in today's innovation structure, we have this system pillar. The system pillar is I take from the different flagship project. We should never forget 5 means there are at least 5 others. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, right? And all are developing things. For example, flagship project 2 is about automated train operations. So self-running passenger trains. And out of the flagship projects, you have then different tasks. Task forces DAC and FTO, which take, let's say, the deliverables of the innovation pillar and look into how can we make the deliverables reality in today's regulatory framework. For example, one of the topic, and that's the next slide, perhaps makes it easier. We have one of the topic which we have when we say data and power management. We have, of course, the question, how do we manage releases in the different wagons? Who is in charge? How can we make sure that the release are compatible and that the wagon talk to each other and talk to the locomotives? So you need an architecture for the release management on the different wagons, which is part of the work here in the system pillar task 4. It's what you see under proposal for a central instance for managing data access and processes for software updates, working package 4, where we are, of course, represented also as UIP. And then you have the standardization and TSI input plan, where also we have to put the let's say, outcome or deliverables from the transform project into the regulatory framework. So the system pillar is really a bridge between innovation and regulatory framework. That's how I would try to explain it.
Here's a question coming in, and I think that's a good one.
Only good ones.
Which of the work packages deals with maintenance aspects?
None.
Clear answer.
None.
Is that somehow foreseen where these issues should be dealt with?
Yeah.
Because this is, of course, something what is also necessary for our organization, VPI FAS, with the maintenance guide. So this could also be a question which could be addressed from me, from Mr. Wirtgen,
sure.
as managing director of FAS, because that is extremely important.
We have
the next comment from that from Thomas Eder was no maintenance needed ? Which is
exactly that's the object. No. To be serious, we have had discussion and nobody was really, let's say, into the detail of maintenance. So you can imagine who had to chair a user requirement on maintenance group, which is sitting near you, which was me. And we had discussion on the first stage of maintenance, which was how to define user requirements for maintenance, which many understood as, okay, I define a maintenance plan. No. You define what you expect the manufacturer to do in order to facilitate the maintenance works. And then we realized that's not at all how we work. That's perhaps in passenger the case, but that's not at all how we work in freight. In freight, we work the other way around. The manufacturers develop a product. With this product, you have user and maintenance manuals, which have already taken into account some of the requirements, like the 6 years and so on. There is in the technical specification, I think the paragraph is so big on maintenance, which is written, I think, 6 years and something else. Don't remember exactly what. So let's say the expectation from the Transform project was we write user requirements on maintenance and then up to the manufacturer to develop the right products. And how we work is we look at the products and we develop maintenance instructions, which is the VPI European Maintenance Guide, for example.
We had this discussion already in VPI FAS, and myself and Mr. Wirtgen discussed that already. When DAC once will be implemented, it's clear that we have to implement guidance and guidance into our maintenance.
And that's why we have had discussion, let's say internally, at least I had discussion with the experts. I gathered a lot of input from them, and we have already thought about corrective, preventive, two aspects, blah, 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 blah.
But coming back to that question, is it foreseen that in the structure you are presenting here, that maintenance issue will be addressed, or is that on a later stage?
It's not foreseen as a dedicated working package of the Transform project. So if you look, Transform project is 95 millions. You have a budget, you have different works. There is no development of a maintenance plan in the works. That's why we have either to do it on a voluntary basis, so to build something outside of the Transform project. It could be also in the system pillar. We could also think about having something in the system pillar because it's more, let's say, maintenance is not innovation. It's closer to regulation, I would say, common regulation or sector solution than a pure innovation topic. But we will need a place where we discuss what do we do, corrective maintenance, what do we do, preventive maintenance, in collaboration with the different manufacturers. They are developing users and maintenance manuals like they do for brake systems.
Yes.
We have that. And then we will need to reflect on that, how we deal with it in operation. What do we do after a 10,000 cycle of coupling, blah, 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 blah. Yes. But it's not part now. There is no working package on this.
there will be sooner or later a VPI EMG module of the automatic coupler.
As there is one on draft gear
Yes.
and all things which we have today, which is clear. But I think I agree there is a need to discuss that. But again, there is nothing foreseen really on the Transform project for this. So if I come back to the system pillar and the work of the system pillar, as I mentioned, for let's say the data access software update, there is a working package 4 in task 4, which please don't mix up with working package 4 in the Transform project. But yes, another question, a long one.
Yeah, a long one,
Okay.
and I think also a good one from Guido Ankarani. A very clear presentation, thank you. Well, that's good feedback. All this seems being for duct type 4, question mark. The whole set will be done again for duct type 5 in the next years, question mark. Maybe you want to comment on that. Or is there a planning going on for duct type 5 as soon as possible, and if, when? So that is a distinction between duct 4 and 5. Maybe you want to comment on that, if you can.
Yeah, of course I can.
Okay,
it's slide 15. In terms... in the slide 15, you have the answers. So the functional, so the specifications are there. Of course, we still have some topics to solve. That's why I said before, deliverable 5.1 is crucial for duct type 5 because we will have, let's say, also some train function which have to be, which are linked to a type 5 couplers. But here the idea is really duct level 5 functionality test reports, the first one by 2025 in January. So the work are going in parallel. Okay. The manufacturing industry, and that's one of the question. I know that the manufacturing industry is quite positive, and I hope they can deliver. But we will need, let's say, the couplers to be delivered in a quality that we can use for the demo train, in a quality that we can use then for the pre-deployment trains and the number. So they are working hard to develop the products, not only on level 4, which they are now reporting on the test, but also already on the DAC level 5. For the DAC level 5, of course, the first things we needed, and I said we made the decision in February, was the e-coupler. Which e-coupler, the box which you put, if I go back to the slide 14, the 0.5, this e-coupler, how do we define it? We had two solutions, one from Knorr, one from Voigt, and we had to decide for one. And that was quite a difficult decision. Now we have this. So now that we know the box where we put the cable, how does it look like, then we know as well all the digital data communication architecture should look like. That's the working package 3, which has delivered the works, or should deliver by the end of, or had delivered by the end of March, I think. Then we can go into the DAC level 5. Okay. Easy demonstration.
Yeah, okay.
But that's only, at the moment, what I see is only on paper. I have not seen, perhaps I'm mistaken, I have not seen really a DAC Type 5 working for the moment. Back to slide 25, Eiko.
That's right. It was ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Another question before I continue?
No questions.
Okay. So still on the system pillar task 4, I will not come back on this working package 4 where we define the central instance for managing the software update, but I'd like to come back on the working package 2, which is operation. Because we have said, and I think it's the central aspect of full digital freight train operations, we will need new operational process. And here you see how this works in practice, or let's say in practice between Transform project and the system pillar. So between task 4, system pillar, and Transform working package 2 on the system architecture. So back in 2023, I think June 23, Transform project, the innovation pillar, delivered a document 2.1, which is 317 pages, which entail the processes, harmonized processes linked to the operation of a train with digital automatic couplers. The processes are classified into 01, 02, 03, 04, and then there are under categories. If you try to make it simple in the first instance, you could say you have train preparation, you have shunting, and you have train run. It's a little bit more than that, but I don't think we want to go into the details of the different processes. For that, again, sounding board OPE, operation. That's where you can discuss it with Andreas Haller, who is the leader of this working package 2 and the deliverables. So we have defined processes, but if you look at the documents, it's a workflow. So it's not so easy to really understand how this should be put in practice. And the task 4 of the system pillar is now looking, next slide, yeah. Yes, this one. Is now looking at how can I enrich the document from the Transform project to make it more explicit to the outer world what is meant in the different processes. Here you can see at an example, I'm not sure you can read it, but it's just one would be pure text, the other one would be a solution. Perhaps we have also both a solution where for every part of the workflow, you would have a small text box explaining log driver should test that. If yes, then here. If no, then here. Right? So it's a harmonized operational procedures. And now if you look into what does it mean from, next slide, what does it mean from the point of view of regulatory framework? Here, today's situation in operation, we have indeed TSI OPE, but the TSI OPE, there is many functions which are still nationals. There is even an appendix which lists all the functions which, or all the processes which can be national, and it's a long list. So in fact, we still have a situation where we have European TSIs, where we have still many national rules which come into, at national level, different scenarios, operational rules, and then the railway undertakings have to take the operational rules into their rule book. Operational rules can be in the network statement, or like in Switzerland, we have the so-called Fahrdienstvorschriften, where operational rules are clearly defined. So that's today's principle, and if you think about 5 or 6 member states where you have to run a train, you can imagine the complexity of the processes from the RU side. With the new approach, with this harmonized operational rules, which I've presented just before, between Transform and then into the system pillar, we are looking at, could we have in the TSI OPEs then, next,
that's okay.
Yeah, perfect. Could we have perhaps as an appendix of the TSI OPE the harmonized rules which we have defined together in the transfer project, enriched in the system pillar, and then have one single set of rule, harmonized operational rules all over Europe, which you can take directly from the TSI OPE into the rule book of a railway undertakings. So you see here, it's really how do we go from the deliverables of the Transform project into the, let's say, legislative framework, the regulatory framework, and how do we implement that, what are the ideas, and of course behind that there is discussion with the European Railway Agency, with the Commission, proposals, recommendation, working package. So it looks nice in 2 slides. In reality, it's much more complex if we want to implement agreed harmonized operational procedures into the legal framework. No question.
No question.
Perfect. So, time for me for a coffee
time
break.
for you to
just
restore your voice.
Exactly. just to make it clear, without ambition one starts nothing, and without work one finishes nothing. So there is still a lot of work before we can finish it, but there are a lot of people which are, let's say, very positive. We are more positive than negative, and I look forward that we can make progress on this innovation pillar, system pillar for defining full digital freight train operation.
I think a coffee break is well deserved because you're running here the show and have already answered some good questions. How long would you like to have a little break? 10 minutes, is that okay?
We can do 10 minutes.
10
perfect.
Minutes, okay.
Yes, till
then,
20.
Everybody, please stay tuned because the second part is also of a very high value of information around that project, and we go on at exactly 20 minutes past 3. So, Jill, thanks.
We
for
go
the first
from
part.
structuring a transformation into planning a migration. So it should be interesting.
This is also where we for BFAS comes into the game.
Exactly.
Okay, 10 minutes break,
See you soon.
20 past 3. We will continue. Thanks for listening so far. Here we are back again, just in time. Jill, it's again your part.
I thought you were speaking now for an hour.
It's your part. Please tell us about the next challenges and the next informations, please. And I would like to encourage the remaining 106 participants in our Teams call to make use of the chat function and raise questions if needed.
So I hope I could provide a little bit of insights into where are we in ensuring or defining, better said, defining the transformation with the upper part of the slide. Now I'd like to spend the coming half an hour, perhaps a little bit more, on where are we ensuring an adequate funding, manageable authorization, viable migration. So where are we in planning the migration of the existing fleet? Here, perhaps important to mention in the past event last week, I think we had very good remarks from different participants, and especially from our president, from David Zindo, on this migration. I think many times we speak about Big Bang and we speak about 13 billion. Both are scary. Both are scary. That's why between the upper part and the under part, we are discussing the pre-deployment trains. And you said it, Malte, perhaps we should spend a little bit of time to explain what those pre-deployment trains are about. And they are, in fact, an important, let's say, part of the game, not only to convince ourselves that what we do in terms of innovation and putting innovation into life is correct, but also to convince our partners. And we owe it to our staff, to the employees in the office like the one outside, and we owe it as well to the customers of rail freight, the shippers, which we often tend to forget. But for them, we are trying to develop attractive services. So before we put, let's say, Big Bang and 13 billion migration into life, we should perhaps test it on a broad scale. So for us at UIP, if I look at these 3 points, next slide, the challenges remain the same as last time. Achieve acceptance among the stakeholders and the customers at European level. We have still, and last week it was clear, we have still companies and countries having concerns, which most of the concern we are shared, as Mark Toppel said during the meeting, are shared by everyone. It's not that we will start a retrofitting or an upgrade actions, as we say, without funding. So I don't think that the upgrade of the current fleet without money should be a concern, as it has been, and it's clear, on ERTMS onboard units, so for the locomotives, and also on the brake blocks, which we have known. So I think there are historical reasons why some people are still concerned and do question the acceptance of the necessity of upgrading the existing fleet. Then defining the technical efforts for upgrading. I think that's the analysis of the fleet, and not only the wagon fleet, but the locomotive fleet first, because without hybrid couplers on locomotives and without any kind of electronic or data and power supply from the locomotives, we will not have this on the wagons. And then last but not least, of course, the highest public funding by the EU and the member states. So I think these 3 points are key, and I'm sure that they are shared by most of the people in the different countries and even from the different companies. So when we speak about planning a migration, we speak about the European DAC delivery program. So we are out of the innovation and the system pillar into a dedicated section of Europe's rail joint undertaking with the EDDP that has been managed in the last 2 or 3 years, I think now, by Mark Topal from the CTO of ÖBB and Jens Engelmann as a consultant and a former well-known guy into the industry. I think, at least in Germany, everybody knows Jens, almost everybody knows Jens. So the general master plan remains the same. We are still here in, let's say, getting the input from the ERGU FP5 transform project and the system pillar. That's the part you see on the top. Then we have the DIKE migration plan development, which needs now to be prepared. And you have the yellow box in the middle, which are in fact 2 boxes linked also to the pre-deployment trains, which I like to present in the next slide. But I think here what's important to understand is that, for example, if I take what I presented in the first hour on the Transform project, now we are using as well the resources from the Transform project, from the working package 4 on authorization strategy to prepare the DAC pre-deployment train, the 100 pre-deployment trains. Why? Because we need to make sure that we can authorize at a large scale. When we say 110 trains, it would be 100 locomotives, 2,000 wagons, more or less, that we can have them authorized in a quick period of time at European level to really do the operational, in operation, pre-deployment trains in operation, not a demo train like DAC for EU, or what has been presented in Brussels last week on the 2nd of April, but really have them going to the customers, being loaded and unloaded and in real operation. So here we had discussion already in January, February, March. Now it's discussion between the National Safety Authority and the so-called National NSA network on how could we make sure that we have those pre-deployment trains authorized. So this is also perhaps where we have the interface between the FP5 Transform project and the EDDP and this yellow part, which you see on the screen. At the same time, when we plan a migration and developing a migration plan means we would like to use the pre-deployment trains to test a deployment management entity, because we cannot go into a big migration without having tested how we'd like to organize procurement, funding, coordination, and so on and so forth. And that's the second yellow part which you see on the screen. And of course, as you see on the screen, there are euros everywhere. Euros everywhere means there is money needed for everything. The technology, the FP5 is green because we have let's say the funding, it's organized, it's running, the 95 million euro. In the migration plan, we have part of the funding now with the so-called d'accord project. It's the other d'accord, which I will present. And then we still need some fundings, but I will come back on this as well. Yes, Malte?
And there's a question from Niklas Weidert. What is the status of the funding of the 100 trains? That fits into that, what you're saying.
Yes, if you look at what the Commission has said last week, was Magda Kopczynska, who is the director of DG Move, so just under Valean as transport minister in Brussels. They are less afraid by organizing 200 million than 13 billion. So what we have now, there is, let's say, the recognition by DG Move of the need. There is a recognition by the member state that we would need it. And now it's a question, where could we find the money? Could it be from the Recovery Resilience Facility? Could it be money left over in CEF and so on? So the question now is not if they would be interested in funding, it's from where would we get the funding, the 200 million. So we still have, let's say, more or less 1 year now to organize it. And we are still very positive that we will get this funding. There is no one who said no. The 13 billion, we have had a lot of no, we don't have the money. On the 200 millions, it's an easy calculation. It's 2 million per train, so 200 million. On this, we have had very few no's.
Before, I think you will explain even more details about the pre-deployment trains, but there's one question which is a bit more basic but should also be answered. I just read it to you. The whole fleet seems being roughly 500,000 wagons, meaning 1 million DAC needed. How many locomotives exist? Do we need 1 or 2 DAC for each locomotive? So very common, basic comments. Yes, two DACs are needed for every vehicle. So far, so good. Or would you like to?
No, I think here on the detail of a migration, I'm probably the wrong person to answer this topic. But let's say we have 40,000 locomotives, and the question is not how many DAC do we need per locomotive. The first question is how many locomotives can we equip with an hybrid coupler? That's the first question. And then the question, how many couplers I need, not the other way around. And for the wagons, it's exactly the same. We always do the same. I would not say that it's an error or that's wrong, but we always say, 500,000, so 400,000 need to be migrated. Well, we need 1 million, so it costs 13 billion. And at the end, it's just... my son can do this calculation.
That is what David Zindo said
exactly.
Last week, that we really should now focus on the pre-deployment trains, make the testing, make them running around Europe, and then evaluating how many DACs do we need and how high are the costs when you consider everything. So I think this is a really very, very valid statement. We should really focus on the 100 pre-deployment trains. And maybe you want to comment on that issue.
Yes, I think we need to do first our homeworks.
Yes, that's
before we go out and say there are 40,000 locomotives, it costs so much, I need so much money and so much DAC. Do the homeworks. Assess the fleet, look at what is feasible, not feasible, look at the technology, look at the evolution, what can be done, what cannot be done, and then we will have a view on how much do we need. I will give you an example. It was easy, it was in Switzerland, and we decided to equip wagons with K-blocks. It was a project in the 90s. And we said, wow, we need so much money, and at the end, the Swiss government said, you're nice guys. We have 50 million left. So you were asking for money for wagons which in the meantime are not used anymore, have been replaced and so on. So does it cost 11 billion, 13 billion, even more, even less? How many couplers do we need for locomotives and so on? Are very valid question, but they are too early in the process.
So the funding for the pre-deployment trains is much more important than the whole funding of the retrofit in total. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
Okay, and then that answers the questions quite well. Then you can proceed with it.
Yes, here that's the homeworks. Yeah. That's the homeworks where we need also funding here, and that's really at the level of the Commission. The green part is the difficult part. That's where you really start a migration, right? And in the gray yellow and blue part, that's where we need now to do our homeworks. What are the homeworks? The homeworks are defined here in a new slide, which has been presented to the supervisory board of the EDDP it was back on the 14th of February, easy, Valentine's Day. Here you see a little bit the new classification of the different work. The A part was transform, which I presented an hour ago. The F part is the system pillar, also part of what I've presented, right? Important topic for the homeworks, A2 and 3, sounding boards. Sounding boards, that's the presentation of the sounding boards have 160 slides, so you can imagine how many technical details you get, a lot. Here you can register on the Europe's Rail website, and you can participate to those technology and operational sounding boards where topics are discussed into the details, like the question from, I think it was Marco, on the hybrid coupler. That's the place to discuss it, right? Then in the middle, we have the planning of the migration roadmaps with C, D, and E. And in the C part, for example, we have now done clusters. Why did we do that? Malte, do you know why we did it? To make it more complicated? No, that's not the reason. No, the reason is we said it should be possible for one and everybody to register only for one cluster. Not for the whole. You know, we had the working package, we had working package 3 of the EDDP, working package 5, and so on. And we have said now we have the 11 or 13 actions. It should be easier if you can register for one or the other topics. And the best example is there is a call which is ongoing now for C1 and C2, because apart from having people attending to the different workshops, webinar, participating in working group meetings, you need also to have a driver and a motor for all this. And that's why Europe's Rail is doing from time to time a call to support with financing means some companies who are taking the lead on some topic. And on C1 and C2, I think it's not a secret that the fairs in Germany, together with other partners, has submitted a proposal to look, and that's where the competence of the fairs are important, to look at the capacity plan workshops related, because that's where the competences of the fairs here in Hamburg are. So we have, that is not yet online, but we will have for everyone the possibility to participate in the different clusters, not in general, but really related to whatever is at the heart of their interest. And here, I think the very first project which was supported was D'accord. Now it's the other D'accord, not D'accord, but D'accord, and D'accord is managing B1 and 2. So there is money which has been put in place. There is a consortium who is in the lead in the stakeholder management. And for example, what did they do? They organized the event in the Train World Museum in Brussels last week with the ministers. And that's why not only you can participate free of charge, but there is also from time to time calls which are organized by Europe's Rail to put a little bit of money and to ensure that there are a driver and a motor on this different topic. And you see what underpins all this, the 100 DAC pre-deployment rates. And you have asked the question, where are we, what is developing, blah, blah, blah. Here, what I have heard, because there was a letter, I think we shared it, and you shared it as VPI as well, with all the members.
Yeah.
In February, there have been a couple of companies who have announced interest to, let's say, run pre-deployment trains in different projects. What I heard beginning of last week was that we are at 30, 40 pre-deployment trains for which companies have shown interest. So half of the 100 pre-deployment trains, I mean, if it's 50, 60 or 30, personally, I don't care. I just think, as you said, that it's important that we have them and that we can convince ourselves, our customers and the staff, and also the, let's say, the politics, that we can do it. And that we can start perhaps with a migration from 2028 or later on, but that from 2026, that's the idea of the pre-deployment trains, that we are really ready to start them.
Question from my side, will there be information when these trains will start, in which industries these train will start? How is the communication planned, or is there any knowledge in the market how that will be? Because it's really interesting in which conditions these trains are running. I think about the dirt cement trains. I think about the ATEX issue, what we addressed earlier on. I think it's very vital that all the trains are running in different environments. Is there any information available or not yet?
If I'm clear, I should say, ask your members. No,
and I'm asking you because you are very close to these developments on the European level. So you are the right addressee for that question. Sorry to say.
No, absolutely not. There is nothing planned on this because first step first. Do we have the money? Not yet.
Yeah.
Can we ensure a fast upgrade of locomotives and wagons? Not yet. So now what we work on is not on the communication plan and assessing if all type of trains are included or not, is on ensuring, and that's from FP5 if you want, from the transform into this EDDP topics, is making sure that we are capable of putting pre-deployment trains into life. And that is from the manufacturing industry to deliver. I mean, if we speak even 40 trains, that's where the question becomes much more, let's say, concrete about how many locomotives do we have to equip and how many wagons do we have to equip and can the industry deliver. So we need money. We need interest is what is up front. There is interest. Yes, there is interest. So now secure the money, secure as well the authorization or non-authorization of the trains and which regime can we circulate across Europe. And then we will have a real call where people can participate. And then we will know about the train and what is represented. If one is missing, for example, on ATEX, then we need to speak, you and I, with our members to get them on board.
Then I conclude that this is something what we will inform our guys in the next webinar called Renew
exactly
3.0.
That would
because
be
I think
center.
This is one of the core issues. Yeah.
That's the core issue, and of course, in parallel, if I come back to what I've shown before, what we are expecting. One before Michael. Here you see in the middle deployment management entity preparation phase. For this, we would need also money. And I'm not talking about the 200 million for the pre-deployment trains, but to finance a structure with managing, let's say, the testing the idea of a DAC deployment manager in the pre-deployment trains to see where we have the problem and to identify the problems before we start with a big bang and 13 billion, because that would be not really responsible from our side to think we can manage it from scratch and that we can start without having the experience of managing a migration for pre-deployment trains. So the idea would be, can we get also a structure, so pre-deployment manager entity, which is managing the migration for the 100 trains? You follow what I mean? Yeah. And then we test this, and then we can learn from it, and then we can see DAC deployment manager for 400,000 wagons and 40,000 locomotives. Yes, we have tested, we can do it, or we can't do it.
that makes hopefully everybody curious for the third webinar about all these topics, because that
Hopefully.
It's from my point of view the crucial issue right now.
Yeah, not the only one, I think, from David Zando, our president. It was also clear before we start with the scary part, let's start with funding the deployment projects, with testing, with showcasing that it works. And to be honest, if it works, the unions will be on our side, because they will say, I don't want any manual couplers anymore, I want DAC trains. And the customers will say, oh, the trains are more reliable, at least we hope, apart from the infrastructure issues which we have, that the trains are more reliable, that they get data, and so on and so forth. So if unions and customers ask for more DAC trains, I think we don't need to fight for the 13 billion.
In the chat, no questions regarding pre-deployment trains, so I think we can move on.
Okay, good. Again here, just to remind you, here normally in the coming months, you should have the possibility to register for the different work stream on Europe's Rail website. So when we look at our, let's say, focus from UIP side, we have two. The fleet upgrade, I don't like the retrofit, but I didn't prepare the slide, so it's not on my. I just took it from the working package 3 migration, and I don't change it from what Andreas Lipka has prepared. But what our, let's say, focus is on the upgradability of the different vehicle types, and of course the analysis of the current fleet as to which vehicle, how many vehicles could we easily upgrade, how many could we probably not upgrade, and for how many perhaps do we need more documentation. And you see here, that's the first analysis which DB Cargo did for its own fleet, and the results are, I say, positive or neutral. We still have 38% which from documentation and technical capabilities can be retrofitted, but the big issues on the 44% is documentation missing. So here we are trying also to find mitigation measures already in the Transform project, in the working package 4, with running a kind of let's say, assessment of all the documents which we need from the safety experts and so on, to make sure that we are ready then also to address these shortcomings in documentation for the existing fleet. And here, as I mentioned, the call on the derailment tax and mix and match topic here as well, we will test a tool. We will test a tool, again, a tool which should allow us to provide, let's say, the documentation by simulation and not by running every wagon on a test track which nobody can pay for. So here, mitigation measure for the 44%, and you see from DB side, at least 18% of the vehicle type. The question is still how many vehicles are behind the types, but 80% of the vehicle types will be difficult to retrofit. So again here, difficult to make then an assessment for the whole European fleet, because we are also speaking about vehicle types and not single vehicle here. Just to make sure everybody understands correctly, it's not 38% of the DB fleet, it's 38% of the vehicle types which DB Cargo has in its fleet. Just to make sure. So here, if we want to progress, we said, let's build up a database. That's normally we said, wenn du nicht mehr weißt, build ein Arbeitskreis. That's the German topic. Here we say, no, we are in the digital world, so we don't know how, so we build a database. We have initiated that as UIP. It should be a first mock-up, should be available or is already available and should go live into end of April, beginning of May. We will see how the structure is for the management of the system, how we can put data in it. Some have said that we need an army of Chinese who go into the basement of every company and look for the documents, and then we put the information we have on all type. Yes, we will find a way to manage the data, knowing that we are concentrating on the wagon, the freight wagon. As I always say, first we will need the lock guys to care about which locomotives can be retrofitted, how, do we have the technical solution, do we have the documentation, and so on and so forth, because without the locomotive there will be zero wagons which can be upgraded with DAC. So locomotive retrofit means I can upgrade the wagon. That's the real path, but nevertheless, I'd said before, we need to do our homeworks, and our homeworks as UIP is to look at the 250,000 wagons which we represent, and to analyze, to do an analysis of the upgradability of the wagons. So fleet. Yes, we have first results from DB on vehicle types. We are building a database to be able to share the information and to cover a maximum of the different vehicles in Europe, or vehicle types in Europe. And then the very first topic, which I don't know where we are now, but there have been some progress from what I've heard, is retrofitability of the locomotive with an hybrid coupler. So apart from the fleet analysis, next slide, from the fleet analysis and the database for this, we have been looking also together with DB on a Find for DAC study or project together with Connected Value. Connected Value has been involved back in 2019 with the, let's say, German ministry when the study on the DAC was published and all the work started, in fact. And we have been trying to match the master plan, which I've shown with the deployment trains, with the transform projects, the deployment management entity, so the gray, yellow, and green part, with financing plan. How should it look like from a financial point of view, from the stream and the work streams? Put into 3 different clusters. We need to establish the financial structure. For this, we have working groups, and we will need to have concept and structure defined at least at the latest till the end of 25. Or the beginning of 25 is the idea here. Then we need to have a clear view on fundraising and where do we get the money from. It could be, of course, EU member state contribution, also grant up front. It could be allocation of carbon credits, which was also a topic, by the way, on the 2nd of April, mentioned by David Zindo. If you want to finance it, do an allocation of carbon credits. We could have also ideas on climate funds or other solution for the funding. From our perspective, it's clear we do it for society as well, so it should be public funding. No question on this for the moment.
No questions in the chat.
No, okay. Despite the fundraising, let's say, from the member states, what we also find out in the discussion, and I think that was something which we forgot in the past, was we need also risk management. And we need risk management to cope with elements which in today's world are probably changing economical conditions, which might change over the future. If you do a migration over a long period of time, you need to do a risk management concept. You need to have also, perhaps within the deployment management entity, you need to have a risk management entity. You need to look into the different, let's say, topics or risk which you have. And if I go to the next slide, that's where perhaps people can better understand what we mean by when we do financing, we need to do risk management as well. And we are not talking about risk management from a safety point of view. We are talking about mitigation of risk linked to financial conditions, linked to the technical and operational issues which we may have with one manufacturer, with I don't know what, with plants where they build the the DAC and something is on fire. I don't know. Everything with strategic and political conditions or risks, as we have seen when the Russian invasion of Ukraine started back in 2022 now. It's 2 years, it's 2 years now. That had quite consequences on our business as a freight wagon keeper, at least. So we need also to take those risks into account, and also the supply chain risk. What happens if you are interrupting BASF supply chain because you are migrating a fleet? Then you have a bigger issue, I think, in Germany. And then from the mitigation of risk, then we need to look at should we terminate the migration, should we have temporary interruption, or should we prolong it? So all this topic needs to be taken into account, and needs especially a sector-wide risk management. It cannot be only the railway undertaking, it cannot be only the manufacturer or the asset manager. Under AM it's asset manager, so we as wagon keeper or the workshop or whatsoever. We need all the different parties to be represented in a DAC risk management entity, perhaps best placed, to my personal opinion, into the DAC deployment manager.
No question. So far, a statement from Helge Stur, which I will transfer to you later on regarding wording of some issues. I think we have to speed up a little bit because we're running out of time, and we have to make the announcement for the DAC forum from our friends from
it's coming.
VDV and
Still
DP.
only one slide, Helge.
Okay,
then I'm on it.
Then it's okay.
So,
perfect.
In Germany, there are also works ongoing, homeworks from the German ministry. Connected Values, SCI, and HVH have been mandated for a project to facilitate the DAC pre-deployment preparation of the rollout. So here you can expect as well, in Germany at least, to get in touch with those companies. They have a mandate from the German ministry, and they will work on the same topic as I presented before. So I've looked at the fleet, I've looked at the financing, and the last but not least is the migration, of course, the real migration roadmap, the real migration map. And here as well, there is possibility to get involved not on the big bang, which is the lower part of this chart on the core wagon load system, but there is a proposal, you will see it on the next slide, to join forces to get into a so-called DAC forum in Germany and to exchange, but it's only for the willing. If you're not willing, you don't have to go there, because it's just to find solution, not to discuss problem, on the serial migration of separable transport. So it's for all the railway undertakings, not especially for wagon keepers, to discuss with the people involved in the migration roadmap and in the migration plan, to have an exchange on different aspects. I'll come back to, later, but to look at the different assumptions and the preconditions which they have defined, and to, let's say, confirm or change or discuss, exchange views on how this migration in terms of serial migration of separated subsystems, so the block trains and so on, how this could be organized. You see the date here on the screen, 18th of June. 9 a.m., 12 p.m., organized between Helge Stur and Knope von VDV. So let's say the main organization, the coordinator, is the VDV, the German Deutsche Verbandsverkehrsunternehmen. It will be in German only. We will look then if there are possibilities to organize other DAC forum with other regional focus. So for the German participants, please note 18th of June, 9 to 12, to discuss and agree and confirm different aspects of the serial migration of separated subsystem. Here you see the different topics which should be discussed.
I would like to add just one thing, that it's not in competition to our webinars, and it's complementary, because VDV is a little bit more focused on railway undertakings. We are more focused in our area of wagon keepers and workshops, and therefore we didn't really find a way to do this together. So we think these two formats are complementary, and I hope you will also participate or participate in these workshops, which could be also of very value for the information of the whole project. Sorry for interrupting.
Perfect.
We are reaching more or less the end. Our time's running out, but the famous last words belong to you, Jill, because you presented here us a very condensed overview of the latest developments.
I tried my best. I hope you can keep some, some insights from the discussion. It will be recorded, published, so if you want to look at some of the aspects which I overflow, no problem. Again, last week at the informal meeting of the transport minister, organized under the Belgian presidency after the Berlin Declaration, which is back 2018 or 16, don't remember exactly the date, but I think 18. We have again a strong backup for rail freight, but I think it's up to us now to really address the attractiveness, efficiency issues which we have had, not from an infrastructure point of view, but from an operational point of view, and to transform our industry to be fit for the 21st century. And as I used Socrates last time, I'm going even more in the back with Heraclitus. Big results require big ambition. I think you have seen in the program, we have the big ambition, and I hope we can realize them. The next webinar, I think, will be either at the end of September after InnoTrans or perhaps mid of October. We will for sure come back.
Yeah, as announced earlier, this is an ongoing format because we see it crucial as VPI and UIP to inform our stakeholders of the developments. And Jill, therefore, we as the VPI are very grateful that you took over the lead here as you are very close to the developments and put a lot of effort in the last 2 hours speaking a lot, and I hope really that a lot really came to the audience, that really some information was well distributed.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
Very, very much, and thanks everybody for the time. All last words belong to you.
Have a nice evening, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.